Book adaptations have been scouring the animation world for quite some time now, starting with Disney fairy tale movies like Cinderella, Winnie the Pooh, Beauty and the Beast, the book The Little Mermaid published in 1836 by Hans Christian Andersen that went on to inspire Disney's The Little Mermaid and even Studio Ghibli's Ponyo. Then came the early 2000s pile of Dr. Seuss animated movies, which gave us The Lorax, Horton Hears a Who, the best song in all of history, How Bad Can I Be? But today I'm not going to be getting into all that, because today I'm going to be focusing on two of the best animated movie book adaptations in all of history, the Peanuts movie and the Captain Underpants movie. And after having to go through the terrible Wimpy Kid animated movies recently, I wanted to break from the gross feeling in the pit of my stomach, and I wanted to watch actual good comic to movie movies. And when I thought we were finally done with the Wimpy Kid Disney Plus movies, Jeff Kinney confirmed that they're planning on doing every single book. We are going to get 17 of these, because apparently quick movies for Disney Plus is much better than one really good Wimpy Kid animated movie that can be as timeless as the Peanuts and Captain Underpants movie, and which we deserve and has so much actual potential. But my mouth is already having a bitter taste. Let's just jump into what these movies got right about turning beloved characters into a fun animated adventure. Starting off, we got the Peanuts movie, coming out by Blue Sky, rest in peace, in the warm nostalgic year of 2015. Competing with other animated movies like Inside Out, Hotel Transylvania 2, and Minions. I'd be so mad if I released an animated movie the year Minions came out. Peanuts went on to reach a respectable $246 million worldwide, and was pretty well received, although it didn't hit as huge strides as movies that have defined culture such as Shrek, Toy Story, Despicable Me. A lot of people appreciated the simplicity and the comfort-like feeling this movie gave off, and anybody interested in animation or 3D animation alone was absolutely adoring these visuals. This felt like the first time in a while that 3D animation was starting to get creative with visuals, utilizing gimmicks from early cartoons, squash and stretch, smear frames, iconic looks, and the movements from the original Peanuts specials. This movie is entirely made in CG and designed to have 2D elements shine through, which, if you've seen any animated movie in the last 3 years, this has become quite the trend among 3D animation, and I absolutely love it. We went from these kind of dull, not too colorful films to like vibrant, almost graphic novel looking movies. Even the director, Steve Martino, kept repeating to himself, "Don't screw this up." And obviously he didn't screw it up, or else I wouldn't be making this video. I think he basically saved the Peanuts brand. For some reason, the Peanuts brand just has so much luck with every single spin-off of theirs. Like, they recently put up an Apple Plus series, and it has some of the most appealing animation in a show I've ever seen. I think these guys should give Jeff Kinney their good juju. The Peanuts movie has one of the most laid-back and simple plots I've ever seen for an animated movie, and although usually that would be a fault for an animated movie, I think it works really well with Peanuts. The laid-back, simple nature of the Peanuts specials is why everybody loved them so much, and I think it's why this movie is so good. The movie's plot focuses on Charlie Brown trying to impress a little ginger girl by stalking her. That's basically the story, but it's a lot more wholesome than how I'm explaining it. Can I just say, the voice acting in this movie is so good. Definitely considering these are all kids doing the voices. I don't know if the director had a gun pointed at them, but these kids voice acted their lives out. My main problem with child voice actors is sometimes they sound too scripty, like you can tell they're reading something. But this movie feels so real, and the emotions work so well with their voices. You got Will from Stranger Things voicing Charlie Brown. He does a really good job making Charlie Brown seem kind of shy and sad, but also optimistic about things. It's a breath of fresh air because we're so used to Charlie Brown being the most depressed child ever. So it's good to see him a little happier than he was in the Christmas special.
But I'm still not happy. I always end up feeling depressed.
Holy shit! The Peanuts movie is not super ambitious with the adventure aspect of it, but I also think that could be because I'm so used to watching movies with so many things going on. A song every 3 minutes, characters fighting, Chris Pratt. And I like that this movie keeps the simple, kind of laid-back charm of the Peanuts comics, but it's also not boring while doing it. It focuses on capturing the energy and style of Peanuts instead of getting too carried away with trying to please you with the adventure aspect of it. They do, however, play on the idea of having a crazy story by having Snoopy write his own huge action sequence, which kind of entails that they knew the Charlie Brown plot maybe wasn't super entertaining, so they threw in Snoopy flying jets and killing people. This side plot kind of does the opposite for me. It made me realize how I didn't want a big story in Peanuts. Because anytime I would get enthralled in the Charlie Brown world, it would jump to Snoopy doing things and I was like, no! I love Snoopy as a side character, but I do wish they made him a little more fitting with the story, because it does kind of feel like a short film inserted at random parts in a film. But I've also read that a lot of people love the side plot, so maybe I'm wrong. I think this opinion also has to do with Charlie Brown being such a strong character that I wanted to see more of him, and when we got Snoopy, although I love Snoopy, I was so enhanced in the Charlie Brown world. And just the fact that Charlie Brown is so likable in this movie and in general shows a good story off the bat. The whole vibe of this movie feels like a community having fun. Kids are flying kites. The hockey sequence in the beginning perfectly establishes Charlie Brown's personality clashing with the rest of the group, but it also shows that none of them actually dislike him that much. It's more of, oh, that's just Charlie Brown, Charlie Browning. And I think that's super wholesome and such a humanizing plotline. Also, like I've said a million times, I love when there's snow in animated movies. The snow looks so good. Oh my gosh, it's so pleasing. I want to eat that snow. Most of this movie paints Charlie Brown as a dumb kid who messes everything up, but it also paints him as a leader type kids just attached to. He's not just the mascot of the Peanuts comics. This is his world and everybody is living in it. My personal favorite segment was watching everybody just adore Charlie Brown and raise him up as some genius. And instead of Charlie Brown making it about him and getting a huge head, he starts to absolutely hate it. If this was Greg Heffley, he would be using 2 of these kids as slippers, another kid as his walk-around chef, and hopefully another kid that's good at animation and can animate his movie actually good. This man is always speaking facts. He is so humble. I smiled head to toe when Charlie Brown saved his sister's performance by putting his own in jeopardy. All hail Charlie Brown. I've talked about this before, but I feel like there's movies and adaptations that either take their plot and make it so simple it feels like they're almost spoon-feeding you everything, or there's also movies that take themselves way too seriously and try too hard that it can also ruin the reason we love the simplicity in the characters and the story. If you're working with really good characters, they could be literally doing nothing and it would still be something because we love those characters. I think having a simple story but it stays entertaining because of great personalities is a great showcase of a good animated movie and a good idea in general. Of course, the story should be having development and should be doing something that warrants a story / warrants a full movie and not a short film. Lightyear. But the story shouldn't be just what keeps the movie afloat, because all of that falls flat if your characters are boring, monotoned, dislikable. This is why I've been actually adoring the new Pixar movies, because it spotlights more character-based stuff than stories, but I think it's all about balance. And I think Blue Sky did this pretty well with the Charlie Brown character. They kept the focus on Charlie Brown and his shy yet brave behavior. And when it's necessary, they give us moments with other characters we enjoy, but that's only after they give Charlie Brown his moments. If anything, I think they could have had more moments with the other characters. Cause every word out of each character's mouth is so funny and wholesome.
I cannot accept this honor.
Can a brother and sister get a divorce?
Every time you pause this movie, you will see a new character look, new ideas for positions, cool zoom-ins on props, awesome angles that would probably be hard to get right. I can't draw from this angle, it would look so bad. The character would lose its legs and half of its features if I drew it, so this is just incredible they managed to get this angle right. The parts where it's snowy and dark outside look so good, it just gives me like this pop-up book feeling. I also need to add Pigpen is my bro. This guy is a lady magnet. He just walks around in filth and is fine with it. And that is like me. I walk around looking like this all the time. Besides the Fire Meghan Trainor song, I also like that this movie doesn't insert anything that doesn't fit with the story. There isn't a silly, goofy pop culture reference. It wasn't overly marketed like every Illumination movie has been. And all that just makes it a tad bit more special and a true tribute to Charles Schulz. They even added his little signature at the end and like the drawing of his, oh my gosh. I would not be able to work on this movie if I had to edit that part. I would be smiling, crying, bawling. How did the editor survive? This movie in the Peanuts brand has felt so timeless just because it doesn't feel like this whole huge production with trendy gags or humor.
Boomers?
And by not doing that, the Peanuts movie feels so rewatchable just like the specials. It feels more like a traditional watch and less like a huge event that you hype up and then forget about it like most movies that come out now. I just like sitting down with some hot chocolate and watching this cute little story. Although it isn't perfect, it could have been longer, it could have had better transitions to the Snoopy plot. For the most part, I think this movie just perfectly encapsulates why we love these characters so much. They didn't just slap these characters down and called it a day, they made these characters feel like themselves. They made this movie feel like a page from the comics. Snoopy is just as goofy and fun as always. He gave us so many more Facebook mom moments. Charlie Brown has some great voice acting, and his shy and scared personality shines through and gives him such easy development that's not too out there but not too invisible. At this point I'm sounding like I'm trying to fit a word count in an essay, so in conclusion, the Peanuts movie managed to capture the exact feel people wanted for an adaptation, and I couldn't be more happier with what we got. It's time for my favorite segment of this video. It's time to get into the Captain Underpants movie. Peanuts has that wholesome, homey-like vibe to it, and this movie has that energetic, hyper, fun vibe, and I almost love it a tad bit more than the Peanuts movie. Just the plotline of this movie is so out there and fun that it almost makes this movie hard to dislike. Two mischievous kids hypnotize their elementary school principal and turn him into their comic book creation, the kind-hearted and elastic-banded Captain Underpants. That is the most entertaining synopsis I've ever heard. Right off the bat, you can tell this movie is going to have some peak characters that carry the film so hard because they're so likable, and you get to see the imaginary world of these two boys. And as a boy who likes comics, I dive myself into this movie's world every time I turn it on. I feel like I am in the shoes of Captain Underpants. I just wish I had this confidence.
Did you like my tuna casserole?
I cannot lie. I don't recall having your tuna casserole.
What? Oh.
But if your casserole is as striking as your one blue eye...
Oh, I didn't think you noticed.
Oh my. Two blue eyes.
The visuals for this movie are so smart and bright, nothing feels like it was made to be a background set piece, everything looks like it could all have a purpose in the story. Like, this turtle alone has enough energy and color that it could fuel a big factory for an entire day. I've never seen a more appealing cartoony design. I would buy the plushie of this. And this is actually quite surprising for DreamWorks in my opinion, because as much as I appreciate their movies, a lot of their first animated movies really didn't embrace colorfulness or vibrant colors. And sure, one could agree the whole point of Shrek and most DreamWorks movies is to look ugly and kind of dull because it fits with the story and the characters, but it's still impressive how much they changed this fact when we got to Captain Underpants. You could tell me this was a Sony Animation Pictures movie and I would have took it as fact instantly. There's kind of been this debate if good visuals can automatically save a movie, and I'm really on both sides. On one hand, there's been a ton of movies that don't look bad visually at all, but still are classified as some of the worst movies in history. But then there's movies that aren't too incredible, but are so different and creative visually, it kind of keeps them on top automatically. I saw a video called Vibes Are Better Than Plot, and this really had me thinking, and it definitely correlated with me. I'm more of a feeling and experience guy, and I'm not too picky, so if I'm seeing a movie, I'm not praying constantly for a good plot. I just want to feel like I'm in that world. I just want the aesthetic and the hype of the production. However, if a movie has both, which the Captain Underpants movie does, then it's just a win-win. Let's talk a bit about the comedy, as it's one of the biggest positives with this movie and something most people will repeat when mentioning this movie. It's something everybody expects to be stupid, but when they actually take the time to check it out, they're completely enthralled in its humor. This movie is similar to what I call the Lego Batman approach to its comedy. By taking itself so seriously to the point it's not taking itself seriously at all. I hope that makes sense. Captain Underpants is a fairly mediocre superhero in the worst outfit known to man who believes he has a purpose as a superhero who needs to save the world. And that already adds dynamic because that's the joke. He's not a superhero, he just thinks he's one, and his overly optimistic view of his position creates the gags almost immediately. And that is definitely the reason I love the comedy of the Lego Batman as well so much. It shows upon these characters who have such a confidence and brave idea of the world simultaneously as all that is revealed to not be true, and the world slowly crumbles down where they realize, hey, not everything is perfect, and that's okay. The best example is the Lego Batman singing about how cool he is while mentioning very silly things he does that has more to do with a middle-aged man than a superhero. And it was fire. It's perfect. Awesomemay try not to bring up the Lego movies every time he's talking about another animated movie. The Captain Underpants movie doesn't feel like it's forcing you to laugh by gunpoint. It doesn't expect you to get its humor, so in turn you can tell the writers are mostly just winging it with what they think would be fun to add, and it comes off so much more genuine as a lot of animated kids movies. This movie takes self-aware and sometimes fourth wall breaking humor, but makes it work because these characters fit with it. And it keeps moving along. It doesn't feel like it's begging for your attention. Once they mention a silly reference or social media joke, they keep it going and they keep on adding on to that idea, mixing it with new ideas, making it feel so much more realistic in this world, and I just appreciate it so much. It isn't like the 5-minute Keanu Reeves tumbleweed joke in the SpongeBob movie where it's so in your face, you almost feel forced to laugh. Even like segments where George and Harold are specifically talking to you as if they know they're in the movie feel so a part of this world because of who George and Harold are. They're these dumb kids who are imagining them as something bigger, and when they are talking to you, they're really picturing themselves as Comic Inc.'s writers. It goes with their storyline so well, so it doesn't feel like a lazy gimmick as much as a lot of other animated movies that do this. Everything is retained in the world of Captain Underpants, and it takes itself just enough seriously and just enough unseriously for it to not take you out of the world. I feel like I'm at this school. I really love the blue look of this school. Something I love about this movie and the Peanuts movie is that it feels so experimental, but also not to the point it feels cheap or unnecessary. Because when a movie becomes too experimental, it sometimes feels like the animators or writers don't have a clear idea. And although I think movies should try and be as different as possible, when it comes to adaptations, you should also try and focus on the points people already like and expect. But I think the experimental animation and moments in this movie are contributing to the fun plot they already have, making this perfect stew of creativity. There's a whole segment with puppets, there's imagination sequences that I adore. They even managed to fit the comics and the Flip-O-Rama into this movie's plot. Talk about throwbacks. The Flip-O-Rama part is so good. Oh, blah, 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 blah. The Captain Underpants soundtrack is so good, like the song Best Friends, the theme song by Weird Al, so fire.
Tra-la-la!
Those evil villains got you filled with gloom. Don't you fear, there's a hero in the sky.
He's still a work in progress.
It feels like I'm in the storyboard room with the writers throwing fun ideas to the wall. This movie feels like the feeling you get when you're with family and friends and everybody is making jokes one after the other, everyone is laughing, and you're looking at the clock hoping time doesn't pass because you just want to be in this moment. That is the feeling I get when watching this movie. I'm not kidding. I know it sounds like I'm exaggerating, but I'm not. I can't express how good the animation in this movie is. Everything is so cartoony and there's so much movement, I just can't look away. If you also look really closely, you can see these little camera movements that go with the character's movement. It's not too noticeable, but it works so well that you feel part of this world. Another part of this movie's comedy is the comedy being unfunny, where this movie takes an approach on this whole idea and creates a villain who hates fart jokes. That is perfect and automatically makes those fart jokes work even more because as we go along, we realize how dumb the villain is for thinking this way. These kids aren't juvenile, gross, unoriginal delinquents. These are just kids having fun, and they aren't thinking too deep if it's funny to others or not. Kinda like my videos. You don't think my cut-off humor is funny? Well, fuck. And the potty humor works because it correlates to the story and the characters' personalities, telling a motivational story about being your true self and not taking life to the extreme all the time. It's okay to laugh at the word poopy. Speaking of perfect endings, this movie ends with one of the best segments in movie history, where George and Harold realize the reason the real Mr. Krupp is so sad and angry and mean is because he doesn't have anybody. And they set on the ultimate prank, setting him up for love. And we get the most wholesome moment ever.
By the way, I was tidying up my office, and I believe these belong to you.
Her comics.
Did you just pull that out of the garbage can?
Well, I read them, and considering they're completely implausible, juvenile, and filled with the lowest form of wit, potty humor, they're actually pretty funny. See you later!
Well, how about that?
I am such a sucker for mean animated character but has a secret good side. It's why I love Doofenshmirtz so much. It's why I love my dad. That's a joke, he's always nice, that's a joke. But I think this ending just goes to show how much they deliver on what we want as an audience. And this movie is so confident with it. And I think this was all accomplished because of just how much everybody put their all into it. The voice acting is phenomenal. It's so much easier to have fun with an animated project or movie in general as a connoisseur of movie making when the person you're casting really appreciates what they're doing. And you can tell a lot of these expressions fit so well because they were centered around the great voice acting. This is the first time Kevin Hart has got to voice a character that isn't really annoying, and his voice acting is really great in this movie. Oh, and the villain Professor Poopy Pants, oh my gosh, is every word out of this guy's mouth so good and honest. I love whenever this guy is on screen, he's so over the top and he knows he's over the top, and the voice acting is over the top, and it's so entertaining. It is like consuming sugar. I love how Poopy Pants is just kind of the anti-hero. Like, he's a dumb, mean guy, but he's also honest and agrees with other people's points. Everything he says works so well with his character.
Sir.
Yes?
I love it.
Oh, look at this. We got a grade A suck up. Good to know. Good to know.
The fact that Dave Pilkey, the author of the Captain Underpants series, went from teachers having to kick him out into the school hallway every day because he couldn't concentrate, to a huge selling author with a whole dang DreamWorks adaptation just goes to show how if you really care about something and work hard and stay creative, you can really do anything. And that just shows so well in this movie. Also, the fact that Dave Pilkey's mom would always tell him, well, maybe something good will come out of all this, is absolutely crazy and awesome that all this did come for him. And that's basically my thoughts. I think you can tell I like these movies. This video really has no other purpose but to just explain how much these movies have impacted me and animation as a whole, because I feel like though there is quite heavy praise for both of these movies, they still get kind of pushed under the rug when it comes to animated movies. And that could be the fact they're adaptations, and that could kind of make them a little less out there because it's not entirely a new huge blockbuster. But I think that's dumb because these movies actually deserve all the support they can get. And in a time where trendability is kind of becoming a thing with all movies and media in general, the rise of TikTok has made everything have to be clippable and shareable. It's nice to have these laid-back, warm movies to come back to. As for what makes these movies work and the wimpy kid animated ones not work, has to do with the heart going into it. There's not a clear science to how to make a good adaptation, and I'm guessing 100% the animators just got lucky and worked with a good script and team, and it was just destined they didn't have much struggles with ideas. But I do think the clear difference is that you can tell the Wimpy Kid animated movies were meant to please a Disney Plus content tornado, whereas Peanuts and the Captain Underpants movie feel like actual passion projects for the people making them. There was no reason for DreamWorks to make a Captain Underpants movie as much as Disney had a reason to make a quick Wimpy Kids special, and that in its own proves Captain Underpants and the Peanuts movie were made solely because creative people wanted to make them and had fun with making them. Wow, that was a mouthful. I need to breathe. I hope you guys took something from this video. Either way, thank you for listening to me talk about my interest on anime and movies again. Let me know what you thought about this movie. What's an adaptation you would be interested in seeing? I'd love to see a good Wimpy Kid movie. That would be cool. All Jeff Kinney has to do is work with a good team and budget to make a Cabin Fever movie, also known as the best book in the series, and leave it at that, and the world will be happy. This is my first video of the new year, and I couldn't be more excited about the topic. I'm really looking forward to kind of switching it up this year. Maybe I'll try live action movies, Pixels 2015, or the Maze Runner trilogy I'll talk about. Or maybe I'll talk about video games. I'm not really a gamer, but we might do that. I'm still gonna obviously do animated movies, but there's gonna be more variety now that I've gotten the exact vibe I like. I feel like when I was starting these review videos, I was super loud and annoying, and now I want to balance that so it's actually watchable. I think this is a great start, but anyways, stay warm, stay cool, and stay awesome.